People have lots of choices over what to do with their time and their money. What can you do that would fascinate, excite, or delight them? How do you know what they want, need, or believe? Surveys can be a big help in giving you this type of information. Nowadays, you can easily create surveys in apps like SurveyMonkey and Google Forms and send them out to email lists, post them on social media, or print out paper-based versions for in-person settings. By the end of this session, you will be able to write well-constructed survey questions, including rating scale questions, willingness to pay questions, multiple select questions, open-ended questions, and demographic questions. And you will get the beginnings of how to interpret survey questions, particularly demographics. All of you are familiar with surveys that ask questions along a scale from very positive to very negative. Those are called semantic differential questions, or Likert or Likert. 80% of those answering a survey said it was pronounced Likert. The originator of the scale pronounced his name Likert. You choose what you want to do to be understood or to be correct. Anyway, the end of each scale is labeled with contrasting or opposite statements. Note, not all questions should be Likert or Likert scale questions. More on that later. But first, let's look at the scale and wording of these types of questions. How many points should be on a rating scale? Well, not too many, not too few. You want to find the number that is just right. Typically, scales are 5-point scales or 7-point scales. The number of points to use on the scale depends on how easily the survey taker can discern the differences between levels and whether you'll be able to make decisions based on the results. It's occasionally okay to use a 3-point scale, like yes, maybe, no, but only if it's really the scale that you want. Don't use a 10-point scale, or worse, a 100-point scale, because the difference between 8 and 9 or 89 and 90 will not give you better information for your decision making. And try never to use yes/no questions, because a no answer will stop a survey taker from continuing the survey. It essentially closes a person's mind precisely at the time when you want to open it. Let's take a quick look at some examples of how to word these questions. This is a good scale for measuring satisfaction. Are you satisfied, or how satisfied are you with sustainable products or services? How much do they agree with your approach or beliefs? For example, do they agree that serious action should be taken to address climate change? Note, if there is not strong agreement, it doesn't mean they won't engage. It just means you'll have to use an approach that aligns with values that are important to them. You can figure that out with other questions. Here's another option. To what extent do you think that something is being done well or not done well? For example, to what extent do you think that gasoline-fueled cars are damaging the environment? Helpfulness. How helpful would they find information on energy savings or water savings or other sustainable topics? This is a good one to include. How interested are you in sustainability or in reducing your impact? Relative quantity. Would you like to see less or more of something, a certain topic or type of activity, like workshops or interviews or games? This is similar to the interest question, but focuses on the survey taker's values. How important is it to reduce our impact on the planet? Quality is a good question to ask about products and services. Please rate the quality of eco-friendly dishwashing soaps. There are other types of questions that you can and should ask. The name of this type of survey is a willingness to pay survey. So if you are selling products or tickets to enter events or parks or museums, you should ask questions on what people are willing to pay. Do you want people to come to your location? How far will they travel? How much will they pay for mass transit? How long will they wait? Do eco-friendly products cost a bit more? How much are they willing to pay for that? How will you get people to purchase something like solar or electric cars if they cost a significant amount? Will financing help? Can you provide an immediate benefit, like the 330 equivalent miles per gallon that my hybrid electric Prius gets? What benefits can you provide for free that would draw them out? Another type of question that asks categorical questions is a multiple select question. You can ask what features, benefits, or topics that people want to know more about, or ask what activities would bring them out to an event or location. The choices would be options that you could provide on your product, service, or event. Sometimes the best information comes from open-ended questions. Be sure to phrase them so that you can get more than you would get from a rating scale or multiple select question. Those address specific points on which you want to take the survey taker's opinion or information. How strongly do they feel about something? Open-ended questions should ask them to elaborate on choices, problems, or solutions that they would suggest. They often ask why, or what else, or what more can you tell us about a particular issue. It allows you to get ideas that you hadn't considered, or identify things that are important to the survey taker when there are too many options to include in a multiple select question. You also want to ask 2 to 3 demographic questions. Demographics are categorical questions, typically age, gender, or ethnicity. But you can ask some creative categorical questions. Ask questions that will give you meaningful demographic information that helps you make decisions. Don't waste precious space and time asking a question on ethnicity if you're not offering something that appeals to some ethnic groups more than others. How far do you have to travel every day? Or where do you live, referring to the type of housing or city, county, or type of neighborhood, like suburbs, rural, or city. Even income questions can be asked in a way that people might feel more comfortable answering. Rather than asking about specific dollar amounts that they earn, you can ask for their opinions of their economic status. Are they struggling, comfortable, or well off? Be sure to avoid these common problems with the question design. First is asking 2 questions at once. For example, how satisfied are you with the hours and location? That's 2 different questions. Leaving out a response choice. For example, how many times have you visited our website? You always want to include an option for not applicable or don't know. Don't ask leading questions. How many times have you thrown away a survey you got in the mail because it asked ridiculously slanted questions? And don't include built-in assumptions. The greatest assumption we tend to make in our field is to assume that people believe the same premises that we do. If you ask questions that are balanced rather than biased, you will get a broader set of responses. If your responses are only from people who agree with you, you may not get a realistic view of potential customers and participants. So how do you interpret the results of the surveys? Creating and interpreting charts from survey data is beyond the scope of this video and is the subject of several other videos. However, we can start with looking at whether you've collected the type of data that you need. The first thing is to collect enough surveys. To be able to use the survey results to make decisions, you usually need at least 25 completed surveys. That is enough, statisticians say, to detect a medium statistically significant effect. For example, if you have a significant majority of survey takers who feel very positive about a solution, you might be able to generalize that most people in your target area or customer base might feel the same way. But it's important first to look at the results of the demographic questions to see if you can make generalizations. What can you tell from the demographic questions? First, you can see if your survey takers are similar in percentages to your target area or your target customers. For example, if you see that 90% of your survey takers are men, but only 49% in your county are men, you can't draw strong conclusions about your overall results. Second, if you have a good sampling based upon an area or customer demographics, you can compare different demographic groups on their preferences. You can also compare across several questions. For example, if you have a representative sample and your results show a big difference in the concern of one group has for certain environmental problems, you may be able to generalize that more people in that group would be interested in participating in focus groups working to solve the problem. In summary, we've discussed surveys as a great method for researching what will be more likely to succeed in your business or nonprofit, or your event. We've covered some of the important things to consider when designing your survey, the types of survey questions, the pitfalls to avoid, and interpreting results. You can make better decisions when you have better information. Surveys help. Now it's your turn. Create a needs survey. Create a willingness to pay survey.